lengthyounarther, or however you say your name. So you put me in a bit of a bind here. It's about 3:11 in the morning, and I just saw your video on left-libertarianism. I wanted to make a really quick response because it kind of agitated me. I consider myself a left-libertarian, and I think you've grossly misunderstood our positions. I know you're not interested in a big, huge debate, so what I did for you was I just quoted certain sections of your video, and I'm going to sum up my position on them. If you want to have a more lengthy discussion, I'm happy to have one. I hope this dialogue will go well. Again, I feel like you've grossly misunderstood our positions. Maybe grossly is the wrong word. You've certainly gotten it better than others have, but I still feel like there's many more places for improvement. Again, I know you're not interested in a long debate, so I'm going to try to keep this as quick and short as I can. If you're interested in a longer debate, I can certainly defend my positions that I put here. If you feel like I strawman you at all or anything like that, certainly not my intention, so just let me know in the comments. So, first off, left libertarians. I think you know what you're talking about when you actually say left libertarians. You're not thinking about anarcho-syndicalists. You're not thinking of Chomskyites. You're not thinking of the people who call themselves left libertarians like Kevin Vahil, who support a minimal welfare state or something like that. I think you actually are thinking of the people who are at allleft.net, which are voluntarists, left Rothbardians, agorists, mutualists, Georgists, and others on the left libertarian big tent movement, I suppose. So I think you have your definitions correct, more or less. I think they might be needing some work here and there, but not a big deal. You talk about Stefan Molyneux. I'm not a big fan of Stefan. I find that he is really, just the way he debates with people is very intellectually dishonest, and I just don't like a lot of what he says. I'm glad he got a lot of people into anarchism. I'm very thankful for him for that. He seems like a nice guy, and I've met him a few times in real life, but I'm really no fan of his anymore. And I don't take him seriously on feminism. He hardly did any of his historical work from a lot of people who are feminists, who know what feminism is about and have talked about it. If you want to know more about a position that I somewhat support, not completely, but I have big leanings towards, an open letter to Stefan Molyneux, which was written by the Association of Libertarian Feminists, is something you should probably check out, and I'll link that in the description. So, revolutionary. You talk about how you think that left libertarians somehow want to overthrow racism and have a revolution every time there's a hierarchy. Well, no, that's completely false. Actually, what left libertarians want to do is they want to educate the people in a culture or in a community that hierarchy is not the best way to go about. That doesn't mean people can't have hierarchy. That just means we want to de-emphasize it. The left libertarian position on hierarchy, as far as I'm concerned, is suspicion. We're not against hierarchy per se. We're not de facto against it. We're certainly not going to violently overtake some boss-worker relation in a truly freed market because, it would probably be meeting the standards of consensual and mutually beneficial relations that we think are really good to have in a society, in a truly freed society. So our aims are revolutionary, but only in the modern context of society. After that, we're still going to be vigorously supporting the type of libertarianism that we'd like to see in the world, but that doesn't mean we're going to overthrow every single social relation that we see and we don't like, even by a little bit. I think that's really overstating the case. I'm going to link a few things in the description by Gary Chartier on culture and libertarianism. I think it might help you out, give you a better perspective. And again, for instance, if there was a factory that had workers and bosses in a truly free society, I would just not buy from it. I would boycott it. Maybe I wouldn't even boycott. Maybe I'd say go into the factory, ask the worker and the boss how the relation is, what they think of it. I might want to get to know the people behind it. And if I think it's a cool organization, maybe I'll still support it anyway. But I will be suspicious of it because I think power disparities are something to be aware of. That doesn't mean we need to have a revolution every time we see one, though. So cultural norms. You talk about, why would left libertarians put an emphasis on cultural norms? Or I just have it in quotations. I'm just reading off. I only watched your video once. So I'm doing a hasty video. I think you did a little bit of a hasty video. So, but again, you don't want a big argument, so I'm not going to like really go into detail and really rewatch your video a second time. And again, it's like 3:16 in the morning now, so. Um, Anyway, cultural norms. Well, cultural norms are important, and again, I'm going to link something by Gary Chartier on culture. And I'm going to link a few introductory essays to left libertarianism that I think you'd benefit from reading. They're important because what norms go on in the culture ultimately decide what happens in the marketplace. Because you've got to keep in mind that we are the marketplace. We are market forces. And there's an article entitled "We Are Market Forces." I'll link that in the description as well. A lot of links will be coming at you because I'm going to do very general responses, and I'm going to use some left libertarian material to back me up. So yeah, you don't have to read any of these. You know, I just want you to know that I feel that as a left libertarian that you misconstrued a lot of our positions. That's all really. So cultural norms eventually translate into economic relations, power relations, all these sort of relations that we have in our lives, and we do have different relations. Different people put different emphasis on different aspects of our life. So, for instance, you know, the power between a worker and a boss is probably more significant than the relation that they may have as just two human beings in general or something like this. So cultural norms are important because eventually they translate into bigger general societal norms. So if you have a community where patriarchy is actually existing and there are a lot of hierarchies and wealth is concentrated in a few hands, it does seem like it could grow into a culture of authoritarianism eventually. Not definite, but I'm just saying that's a possibility, and that's why we have an emphasis on cultural norms. Now, we have an emphasis on left because, as Gary Chartier says on his the left in left libertarianism, which I'm actually looking up right now, it's because we are against certain ideas that are traditionally held by the left, and it's good to... Okay, so here we go. Here. So LL, or left libertarian, is authentically libertarian both because it is anti-statist and because it affirms the values of markets and property rights. But at the same time, it's authentically leftist because it seeks to challenge privilege, hierarchy, exclusion, deprivation, and domination. Now, what all these things are was not shown in Framing Left Libertarianism at First Pass, which is the blog I'm getting it from. But it was shown in the left and left libertarianism, and I'm not going to read that because it's, you know, he talks about what subordination is, what exclusion, what deprivation, vulnerability, and the range of leftist positions. And I'll link that in the description so you can, you know, get a sense of where we're coming from. So you say you don't want to come off as right wing. Well, unfortunately, my friend, when you say things like, I would have no problem with anti-gay people writing a whole novel about how horrible gays are and then coming back to heteronormativity, yeah, I'm not quite sure what to say about that, except that I strongly disagree with you, and I think that that's really harmful towards society. Society should be very culturally open, which does mean that, of course, heteronormativity should exist to one extent or another. And the ideal of left libertarians isn't to abolish racism or abolish hierarchy or abolish this or abolish that. You know, it's basically the same with you. When you advocate the NAP and property rights, right? Well, that means, in your own mind, that you want to limit aggression and violence. It doesn't mean you want to abolish it. It just means you want to minimize it to the fullest extent possible. Same thing with us. We just want to minimize racism and all these harmful cultural norms that we see as much as possible through nonviolent tactics. That's really all there is to it. And yes, the anti-gay thing really did make you come off as right-wing. So did the feminism with panties, and honestly, liking Molyneux in general is kind of a more right-wing thing on the libertarian spectrum for me. But that aside, I don't hold it personally. I'm just telling you where I'm coming from. Socialist. You keep using the word socialist. Well, I would strongly advocate you read Benjamin R. Tucker, an individualist anarchist from the 20th century, who described himself as a socialist. Left libertarians are largely coming from that perspective. I don't actually like the word socialist or capitalist. Some left libertarians have this like weird double standard. They like the word socialist, but not capitalism. But I think it's all Zaxelbacks. That basically, I just think it's an anti-concept, as Rand called it. So priorities, you say our priorities are out of place. I really don't think so. I think your priorities are really what are out of place when you won't acknowledge that vigilance is the eternal price of freedom. I mean, come on, classic Thomas Jefferson quote that a lot of libertarians like, that a lot of constitutionalists like. I think you should like it too, and left libertarians truly believe that too. But we agree with Jefferson not only in the political and economic framework, but in the cultural framework too. Oh man, this is already 10 minutes. I'm really sorry. I meant this to have 5 minutes. Anyway, you're saying we're perverting libertarianism. Well, I don't think so. I think libertarianism is an authentically leftist position to have. I think people like Carl Hess, Samuel Edward Conklin III, Rothbard, when he was pandering to the leftists in the 60s, showed how easily libertarianism can go in. I mean, he did a very convincing job that he was authentically leftist, at least somewhat. I don't completely buy it, but I think a lot of it was pandering. But anyway, non-hierarchy. You talk about, well, it's impossible of non-hierarchy. I agree. Depends on the hierarchy we're talking about. And you really never define hierarchy either. You never distinctify what sort of hierarchy you're talking about, so I really can't respond more than that. You say you're anti-egalitarian. Again, you don't define egalitarian or distinctify what you mean or what you think the left libertarian means. You just kind of say, oh, well, I'm against that. Okay, that's nice, I guess, but it doesn't really help to clear up your positions. And lastly, you say natural hierarchy. Again, that falls under the same problems. So I'm going to show you allleft.net. That is the official Left Libertarian website. Well, official. And I am part of the Alliance of the Libertarian Left, all one. Alliance of the Libertarian Left of New England, all one. We have a Facebook page. I'd be happy to discuss this with you on YouTube or Facebook. Nick Ford on Facebook. I'm really, quite happy to talk about this with whoever is willing to, and I'm really glad that you brought up this topic. I may have disliked your video, both in the literal sense and in the YouTube sense. But I did genuinely enjoy the fact that you brought up this topic and that I could brush up on my propaganda skills. So thank you, and I hope you can respond and we can have a good dialogue about this. Thanks a lot.